And as I walked up, one of them said to me, "Coach, you know what happened last night?" "No." Said the offices were raided by anti-mafia task force.
Wow.
All of the laptops, all of the phones were taken. Everyone was at their desk until 1 o'clock in the morning. And this is my first day as national team head coach.
Dialah sosok pelatih muda yang mencetak sejarah bersama tim nasional Filipina. Usia muda tak membuatnya gentar untuk berkelana ke klub-klub di Asia Tenggara. Perjalanannya di Indonesia, 𝒂𝒉 tak mudah. Dan semua akan dijawab di Greg on a Talk.
Phone Paul and I said, "Paul, do you fancy a game?" Like we're talking about two local charity teams going, "Do you fancy a game? Come on, we'll pay for it." That was the conversation I had with Paul. And then they ended up dropping what they were doing and coming across to Indonesia and playing us in a game. Because I knew Paul.
Hari ini aku ngobrol sama pelatih timnas termuda di Asia, Southeast Asia. Pelatih yang pernah latih timnas kita and then pernah juara di Liga 1.
Yeah.
Welcome in, Mr. Simon. Good to have you here.
Good to see you, brother.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Very well.
I don't know
Good.
what to call you now. Call you Simon or call you coach?
Call me Simon. Much easier. Call me Simon.
Before you was my coach. I don't know if it's right to call you.
If you were still player, then you can call me coach. But
I'm
you're not player
retired.
anymore. You're player in a different sense. Huh? It's a different sense. You're still you always be a player. Always a player.
How are you? What's up with the blonde hair?
I keep seeing these little white hairs, so I thought I'll just take it all white, and then it's all one color. It's no problem. Yeah.
So we're doing it in English?
Yeah.
Come on, how long you lived here? You should already know how to speak Bahasa.
Yeah, maybe. But an old coach told me once that if you make the players listen to you in a foreign language, they concentrate more on what you say.
More focused. Okay. Justified.
I can still argue, order a pizza and get home in a taxi with Bahasa Indonesia, so that's enough.
So tell us more about you. You know, people know Simon the coach, and then there is so much people don't know about you, and then so much we have to talk about today, by the way. But first, we need to know who is Simon before you become a coach.
I never planned to be a professional head coach. That was never planned. I never planned to go into elite coaching. My background was always development, working with kids, creating opportunity for kids to play football and then progress, creating pathways to professional clubs. I did a lot of that. And then I was able to get a job with Nike. And I did some videos with Ronaldinho and 𝑻𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒈, and we went to Inter Milan's training ground and did some stuff there. Did some really cool stuff. And I think my CV just kind of went up. And then I was playing football for a local team in Sussex in England, and I was player manager at the time, very low level.
How old were you then?
At that point I was 32.
32.
And I went into a tackle and I broke my leg in the tackle. And I was working for Nike at the time. Nike took the job. They said, "We need someone to work. You're going to be out of work for a while." And I struggled for work for maybe 9 months because my whole CV was football. And I'd just been on training grounds with Ronaldinho. What's next after that? What do you do after that, you know? Luckily, a local company gave me a job working in an office.
Wow.
And I spent about 7 months just staring out the window, just wanting to be on a football pitch, doing something in football. And then on Facebook, a lad that I used to coach at under 18 level was saying that the Philippines had just lost their head coach ahead of qualifying for Suzuki Cup, and I should put my CV in.
Wow.
And I said to him, "Come on, I'm here and then national team level
Suddenly.
there."
Wow.
But I did it and I forgot about it. And then 6 weeks later I got a phone call in my office, and it was the secretary of the president of the Philippines Football Association. I got chatting to him. And within 30 minutes, he offered me the job.
Within 30 minutes?
And I said, "Yeah, okay."
That easy?
Yes, please, yeah.
Maybe because you're good looking.
It doesn't hurt. It helps, man, it helps.
Hey.
I think he was just impressed that I'd done stuff with Nike. He saw names on my CV and thought,
names.
you know.
CV helps.
Definitely CV helps. But I remember the phone call and I didn't ask what the salary was. I didn't ask anything about the job, just said yes. And he said, "Okay, we'll make arrangement." Put the phone down, that was it. And then 10 days later, I moved to Manila. So I changed everything, went
Just
to
like
Manila.
that.
And then fortunately, we ended up in the semi-finals against Indonesia, the Suzuki Cup.
Going back, I remember that tournament. Like the whole Indonesia, when the tournament was going on, Indo people didn't focus on the playing. They only focused. Oh my God, the coach is so hot.
No, we had guys like 𝑵𝒂𝒉𝒊𝒏𝒈 who plays in Thailand
Yeah.
now, and he's the only Southeast Asian player to have ever played in the Premier League.
Oh,
He was the
yeah.
goalkeeper back then,
Yeah.
2010. You know, Gonzalez put 2 past him in
Two
both
solid
legs.
goals.
The second one, yeah, the second one,
was
top corner. You
top,
can't argue with that. But for us to be at the semi-final level was, I mean, it's the first time we've done that in history. So to come in 4 months before that, from the
was
level
your
of
debut.
football I came in
That was
from,
your debut for
that, yeah,
coaching.
I mean, that was within 6 months. We made the semi-final Suzuki Cup.
Wow.
So it was just all a roller coaster after that. I ended up going to Vietnam and then Indonesia to 𝒕𝒉𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒈 for the first time.
𝒕𝒉𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒈. I remember quite well.
Yeah, we had a good team there, but I just think there was things going on.
But what do you think about managing, being a coach in Indonesian football, in the league, first of all?
It's difficult.
Not easy.
No.
In what aspect?
So if this is the job, this is 100% of the job.
Okay.
You're responsible for this, but you can only affect this.
This. Okay.
This much is out of your control, but you're still responsible for it.
Yeah.
And if it goes wrong because of this, you still get the sack.
Yes. Yourself.
You cannot affect this part of the job. You
I need
cannot
to be
do
more
anything
specific.
about it.
I need you to be more specific. We're only here to say the truth. Be specific. What do you mean by that?
There has been situations where players have been trying to affect selection.
Okay.
And because players haven't had the influence they thought they would,
Okay.
they have decided to go to the boss.
And the boss come to you
And the
directly.
boss come to me and sack me.
Wow.
One of these days I will write a book. And there are many things that have happened in Indonesia that
Wow.
I don't feel the need to talk about these things in the media. I don't, after it happened, obviously I'm angry about it because this much of the job I
Yes.
can't do anything about.
True,
And I've been
true.
sacked because of this.
Yeah.
But if you speak in the media, it just looks like you against millions. And it
Well,
looks like you're just making excuses.
like, sorry to cut you, but
It's okay.
I remember you as the national team coach, even after you get sacked, you made zero comment about it. Yeah, because sometimes people don't know what's going on behind the closed door, right? So I think sometimes people need to hear from your own perspective. Like that, they will also understand.
I agree with you, but what I would say is I don't think any positive comes from it.
Yeah, I agree.
What I said to the players after I got sacked, I got the players from the national team in the room, and I had the last meeting I had with them is that the great thing about being a player is that it's all on me. You don't have to worry about anything going forward.
Yeah.
Everything that's happened up until this point is now on my shoulders, and when I go, the slate's wiped clean. You can go back into national team again and you're free to progress.
Yeah.
I take away all of the problems that those losses caused. I take them with me and you're free to then push on in national team. So don't worry about it. I know what I'm doing when I sign the contract.
Yeah.
Signing for Indonesia as the national team, there's a lot at stake.
Not
You
easy.
get it well, you do it well, you're a hero.
Hero.
You lose games, everybody hates you.
Yeah.
But you know that when you sign the contract and you take your signing on fee. You know that.
Yeah.
You can't then complain about it when it happens. You just have to
Agree.
take your medicine, It's one of those and that's
Cause
tough medicine to take,
Yeah, because I think, does that national team job affect your career as a coach?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, you were many people.
I went from winning the league,
winning
then
the league.
finishing third, which arguably finishing third
Yeah.
was harder than actually winning the league.
True.
Because when you won the league, you were a surprise for half the season.
Yes.
𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒈, they're not going to, oh wow, they beat us.
Mhm.
Second season, when you're champions,
Yeah.
everybody's fighting against you. Everybody knows they can't
True.
give you a point.
True.
So being able to get third place after winning the league, I mean, that was
Yeah.
tough
That
for a
was
team
awesome.
like 𝒂𝒑𝒈.
Yeah,
So
still
that was an
good.
achievement.
Still good.
But yeah, then to go to national team, the thing is, you know me as an individual as well.
Yeah.
We know each other quite well. Nobody really knows me. They see me as a coach on the sideline and they make a judgment.
Yeah.
but they don't see all the effort that goes in
Yeah.
to creating relationships.
Mhm.
And when I walk away from the national team and you know, I still get messages now, I still get DMs now, dark era, Anjing coach, you know, all the, I
You
still
still
get all
get that
this, still get
message?
this now.
Nah, come on.
But this is sadly, this is the
But-
environment of football in this country. That's just how it is. And we've discussed this quite a
Which
few
is
times,
bad.
haven't we?
Yeah, yeah.
It's just how it is. But the real feedback comes from the players that I worked with.
Yeah.
And
From-
nearly every single one of them, including yourself,
Yeah.
I have a really good relationship with.
100%.
If I was a bad coach, these
Yeah.
guys would forget me in a second. They
True.
would. They wouldn't. You know. And
Mhm.
people like yourself, Irfan, who
Irfan.
I'm playing paddle with quite regularly.
Yeah.
You know, all the guys I
Mhm.
bump into.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, and there's a big hug and there's a moment.
Mhm.
If that was Frosty,
Yeah.
then I'd think to myself, oh, I really didn't make an effort there. You know.
But you know, about national team and those times, you know, Indo people, especially the supporters, they don't care about how good
No.
people are on the inside, how united we are. They only want to see results.
Yep.
Which, you know, is there anything you would have done differently if you are given the job today?
I think we talked about this, right? This
Mhm.
this part of the job that you can't
Yes.
do anything about. The first day on the job,
First day on
the very first day I turned up to the office,
Mhm.
I've got my new tracksuit on, I've got my backpack, I've got 24 donuts in my hand for all the staff in the office to hand out because it's my first day. I'm saying hello, I'm meeting everyone.
Yeah.
I brought everyone cakes,
Okay.
and I come to the office and there is live camera crews outside
Mhm.
the PSSI offices, and they said, I thought to myself, this can't be for me.
Mhm.
And as I walked up, one of them said to me, Coach, you know what happened last night? No. Said the offices were raided by anti-mafia task force.
Wow.
All of the laptops, all of the phones were taken. Everyone was at their desk until 1 o'clock in the morning. And this is my first day as national team head coach. So I've walked up into the office, there's no one there. And I sat there from 9 o'clock in the morning until 1 in the afternoon when the first person came in at 1, because no one had any phones to speak to me and tell me.
Wow.
So the very first day that I started the job, the president who signed me, who we talked about what the plan was and what my job was, he went to jail on the very first day of me as national team head coach.
No way.
These are things that people don't understand. They don't get because
Wow.
this is the job. And I don't feel the need to, oh, it was because of this and because of this and because of this. You know, you take that responsibility. That's the
Yeah.
job of a coach.
Mhm.
That's this part I keep talking about.
Yeah.
This happened. There's nothing I can do about that. It had nothing to do with me, that raid.
Mhm.
But because of that, it changed the PSSI. It put them in a really difficult situation,
Difficult
and
situation.
it
Do or
affected
die.
my job. Yeah, and it
Yeah.
affected my job
Yeah.
massively.
Mhm.
But it's all about the results.
I want to ask you one important question.
Mm.
Like, during this era, all the players selected, was it 100% your choice? Or is there like, okay, pick this guy, pick that guy, pick this guy, pick that guy? Or everything, including the lineups, the starting 11, everything was your decision?
Let me make sure I get this right.
Yeah.
In terms of who I wanted in the squad, yes. First, I had to fight to get the right assistant coach. So I fought to get Yayen. They were telling me
Okay.
I couldn't have Yayen as my assistant coach. I need to pick someone else, but I couldn't have a foreigner.
Why?
Wasn't allowed a foreigner.
No. Why? Why?
Because Yayen was being tagged for something else. He was building to be technical director and they had plans for him in the
Okay.
future. And they didn't want him to come on board as my assistant coach. Whereas Yayen was someone I trusted. He knew Indonesian football. We'd worked together at Bayangkara, so it was a natural thing for me.
Natural, yeah.
But I was told I couldn't have him, so I fought and fought and fought. And eventually, I wasn't allowed to bring anyone I knew, any foreigners that I knew, any staff.
But I mean,
Look at who we've got now. I mean,
I mean,
you've got a
come on.
list this long of staff now.
But look, you know, like, I think one thing about you taking that job is that they gave you that job while you're already coaching here, right? So they feel like, okay, you already understand how Indonesia works. We
Yeah.
just want to sign you. And then, but I think the normal thing to do when you want to sign a coach is this coach have the right to choose and pick his assistants, goalkeeper coach, and people he trusted to communicate with, you know. These things help a lot.
Yeah. I was
But in
given
Indonesia-
limited opportunity for
Yeah.
that, and no one from outside of Indonesia.
Zero.
And I think,
But that's not fair. Why you take that job? Why you take a job like that?
do you know what? If they put the contract in front of me again,
Today?
given everything I've dealt with since I was sacked, I'd still sign my name on the contract.
You will still sign it?
Absolutely. How can you turn down a job like that?
Yeah.
When it's good, it is unbelievable.
True. Yeah.
That's what we always say about Indonesian football. When it's good, it is so good.
Yeah.
You've got a crowd rocking a stadium behind you. Things are going well on the pitch. You're flying.
It's a dream job.
When it's good, it's a dream job.
But again,
When it's bad, it's the stuff that keeps you up at night.
yeah. But again, like, I mean, it would be better if you have your coaching crew, you know, because, I mean, I still believe that we had not a bad squad, you know, but things didn't work. We are not winning games, you know, and then so many things are missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, in so many aspects, like facility, training pitch, all this stuff, you know. And then I don't know how you communicate with the assistants you have then. Maybe if you had brought yours from England, somebody who is more experienced, maybe I think the situation would have been better, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. But I think a lot of stuff, once I signed, we had the training camp in Australia, which was actually brilliant. Was a really good training camp, you know. Perth was a great place to go. We were away from the media. Everyone was kind of settled and comfortable, and we played well against Myanmar. You got the first goal. Fano missed about 26 goals in the first half of the game. We could have been 10-0 at half time and it would have been fair. He missed, and we laugh about it now, but he missed a lot in the first half. And then Spasso finishes it up in the second half. But I mean, recently they put a statistic up that I'm the first head coach to win his debut game.
Yeah, true.
Lewis Miller lost, Shin Tae-yong lost, Patrick Kluivert lost.
Yeah.
I'm the first one to win, and it was away. And at the time, Myanmar were
it
above
was,
us in the ranking.
They were good. It was a do or die game, to be honest. Because if we don't win that game, we're not going to go to
something
AFF.
like the big thing, I think the biggest thing that really caused me an issue was then the draw for World Cup qualifiers.
The draw, yeah.
When that draw was made, I went to KL to represent Indonesia in the draw. And the old Everton player, Tim Cahill, made the draw.
Tim K.
And because I'd done some pundit work for Fox Sports, I knew the presenter, and I went to chat to him, and he introduced me to Tim. I said, look, just take it easy on us, okay? Give us a nice draw. And he kind of laughed and he smiled. And I sat back down, and they start making the draw. Indonesia, Vietnam, and everyone in the room goes, ooh. And then it goes round again. Malaysia, ooh. And everybody knows this is the group that, you know, then pulling out of Thailand come out as well. So those three big names in with us. Now, when I came into the job, my job was 2 years, get to the final, win Suzuki Cup. So against Malaysia, Thailand, these teams. But 2 years to do it. All of a sudden, that marker that I was going to be judged on, whether I was successful or not, had been moved from 2 years to 6 months.
3 months.
Because it was World Cup qualifiers.
World Cup qualifiers, yeah.
We weren't ready at all to go in against these big names and beat them.
Honestly,
we really weren't.
Honestly, yeah.
We weren't ready to do it, and I knew that. Once the draw had been made, again, I went up and spoke to Tim. I said, you just killed me there, and smiled at him and shook his hand. And I went out and spoke to my wife, and I, hand on heart, 10 minutes after the draw was made, I said to my wife, I think that draw is going to get me sacked.
Because at that moment, Thailand and Vietnam, they were there.
Strong.
They were really strong.
And Malaysia, Malaysia will always fight against us, doesn't matter what happens. And if we're not in a good position, okay, we're in a different situation now. But back then, that the senior players at senior team, national team level hadn't been used. It was all young guys. Lewis Miller used all the young guys to build for SEA Games and for Asian Games and all of that. He used a lot of the young players. And even when there were senior games, he would use the younger squads and put them up as senior players. So guys like you, guys like Fano, no one was getting picked. I'm fighting against you guys every week and going, these are really good players. They need to be in the national team. So I changed things around a little bit when I came in. But nothing had been done with that senior team for nearly 2-3 years before I came in. No development had been done. Wasn't a group. And then within the first 3 months, now we're going up against Malaysia, and Thailand and Vietnam, and we're just not ready for it.
Indonesians, once they give a national team job, they only expect result. And then again, Why they disrespect you a lot? I think mostly because they picked you from the league.
Yeah.
Probably, I think, in my own opinion, I think Indonesia should never pick a coach who is coaching inside in the league, Liga 1, because this problem will always occur. You understand the players. You understand the players, you know everyone, you know how they play, you know how they move, but doesn't this thing also affect you? Because based on you knowing too much about how Indonesian players, how they, and then you try to be more considerable and then try to give them like long hand
Yeah.
in making some decisions.
It's true. It's true. I look back at how I handled the job, and the first thing I did when I came in, I sent a message out to all of the coaches in the league, and I wanted all the coaches in a room,
Yeah.
and I wanted there to be dialogue back and forwards, because before that, when I was working in the Philippines, you know, we'd never hear anything from the national team, and all of a sudden the players are gone. Where's
Yeah.
everyone at training? Because the communication was so bad.
Yeah.
And it was kind of similar at Bayangkara with the Lewis Miller regime. There was not good communication between the coaches, the clubs, and what was happening in the national team. So I wanted to make sure that everyone in the room was on the same page. So I got the coaches together, I presented what was going to happen, I talked about schedules, I'm probably going to take players here, so you know, I'll make sure that everything goes back and forwards. We talked about what was going to happen with medical records, because that was a frustrating thing.
Yeah. So, but what would have done differently?
It would have been nice to have something from the club, because we sent, you know, we sent medical records. Jackson Thiago was a great example. He asked for all of the catapult data that we'd done during training camps, so he could look over it and see how his players had done.
Developing. Yeah.
He was the only coach that would ask for that.
Only him.
The only coach.
Yeah, because the rest don't care.
Well, that's Jackson. Jackson wants to know.
Yeah,
That's
he
why
wants
Jackson has been successful, and that's why he's valued in this country. I have maximum respect for Jackson, because
Me too.
he really does. He gets it. He understands, and he cares, which is difficult when you have so much opposition. It's so difficult to keep that motivation and to keep that level of care when you're constantly.
And again, I think, you know, Jackson, I think he's the oldest coach in football Indonesia. He understands how things work here, you know.
Yeah.
And then he know how to handle every situation. But you just came like 2-3 years, and then you're already national team coach.
Well, I think you're right, and I think that, and you're right about coming from the league, because when I look back at what maybe I would have done different, I'd have fought harder for the things I wanted. I wanted to go in and work with everyone. I wanted to bring everyone around a table and really solve problems that we'd had in the past, like communication, medical issues, getting players from clubs, releasing players to clubs, how long training camps were. I wanted to get all that around a table and discuss it. When Shin Tae-yong came in, he said, this is what's going to happen. And when they said, well, we can't do that, he got on a plane and went to Korea and waited. And then they said,
See the difference?
okay, you can have, and he comes back.
You see the difference?
And he's paid 4 times what I was. So,
But you're not. But now, okay, sorry to cut you.
It's okay.
Now you understand the difference.
Yeah,
now,
yeah, yeah.
what
I get
I'm
it.
talking
I
about.
get it. I get
so,
it.
I mean, again, PSSI pick you from
the league.
the league. They feel like, okay, he's cheap. He can listen. We
Quite
can
possibly,
negotiate with him.
Yeah, quite possibly. And
Yeah.
I would be, because I'm in the league, I know the people, I'm more willing to be open and try and work with them to try and find solutions.
Yes.
That was my, I don't profess to be the most knowledgeable coach in the room and go, you know, I couldn't do what Shin Tae-yong did.
Well,
I didn't
it
have
worked
that
out for
power.
him.
I didn't have that power.
Yeah.
He did. So when he came in, he went, this is it, or it's not happening. I'm on a plane. I couldn't do that because I was already in the country. I'd already been in the league.
You got excited. You are national team coach, Indonesia, the biggest club everybody would have dreamed of.
I think we could have been successful given time. I think we had a good group of players. I think that there was a lot of things that could have gone this way, could have gone that way. The draw for the cup killed us.
But one thing I know about Indonesia, the moment you took that job, your days are already counting.
Yeah.
It goes for everyone. You know, nobody is exceptional. Like, I mean, when we won against Myanmar, we looked promising because it was an impressive game. Everybody was happy.
Different formation.
Yeah. The game was good. And then again against Malaysia.
Changed the shape.
No, it was a good game, but we lost.
We did play well in that game.
We played. Yeah, I didn't play.
We played well in that
I
game.
didn't play. I watched the game from outside.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic game. We are up, and then they equalized.
Yeah.
They are up again. They equalized, and then they scored last minute 3-2. So that moment, I think lots of players in the team like lost confidence
Yeah.
or identity. But you know, sometimes when things are not working well, it goes to the coach. But is it generally
Do you know
coach's
the
fault?
most frustrating thing about that game? The goal that won the game for Malaysia.
Yeah.
We talked about that game for at least that goal, at least a week before the game.
Yeah.
Do not let that fullback come forward. Do not let him put a cross in. And if there's a cross in, look out for, because they had a foreign player, nationalised
Yeah.
player, was the one who scored at the back post.
Mhm.
He's going to be the guy. He came on and scored 2 goals. Came off the bench.
Yeah.
But we talked about that goal in training for the week leading up to that game. And then they score the same goal. That's one of the most frustrating things as a coach.
Yeah, I remember.
To see a goal scored that you've been telling your players is going to happen for a week leading
I
up.
remember we worked on that for a week.
But it's
But
one of those things. We
But
scored
again,
some good goals, but
you know what I don't think is fair is how they put everything on you. It's not fair. I mean, in Indonesia, I also got bullied, not just you.
yeah.
Even when I wasn't in the pitch, hey, monkey, oh, nationalisasi gagal.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. But looking forward, I don't want to just talk about this, you know.
Back then, I knew that we needed to have a mix of local players and foreign experienced players. So guys like yourself, when Irfan wanted to come back in the team, you know, having his, maybe he wouldn't play every game, but having his experience within that squad, the way he handles things, the way he's respected by people, to have that influence within the team will only help guys like Evan Dimas at the time and other younger players who were in the squad.
But you remember also that I think during that period, I think that was the moment that local players and nationalized players are not working really well. Because I think some of the locals feel uncomfortable having too many nationalized, and then you try to manage that. I remember you told me that you try to mix it and then still make it look like at least Indonesian national team. Yeah. But you see, when you left, Sintayong came, you see what he did? Fuck local. Anybody who is good, I take. Nationalized in England, bring him. London, Cambodia, bring him.
Now look at it.
And I mean, because he understand what he signed up for, you know. And then Indonesia is not a place that, okay, let's build towards 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. No, they don't have that time.
They're now doing the same things that I was saying needed to happen back when I was in charge. I needed to bring in guys like yourself because if we did get a game away in an Arabic country, the last time we went, Indonesia got beat 10-0, was it? 10-1, 10-0.
Against
a long time ago.
Bahrain,
But that was the last time they went. So I'm campaigning in the office. Look, if we're going to have a friendly, let's go and play Jordan. Let's go and play someone there because if we get it in the World Cup, we need to be able to go there and be okay. We can't come home with a 9-0, 10-0 victory loss.
100%.
And if I do that with local guys, they don't have the experience to be able to handle that sort of level. So I needed to bring in, for that World Cup squad, I needed to bring in guys that have the experience, that have the understanding, who can go out there and know how to play more defensively or more what's the word? Considerate to everybody. You know, I needed more experience in that squad than was possible, which was why I brought and was saying at the time, look, I need this experience. And it's ringing true now that now Indonesia is doing very well in the qualification. It's all with foreign-based players who are bringing that experience in. It's not local guys who are doing the job. It's not.
And now you see, even the supporters, they don't care about local guys. No. They don't care about the league. They say, fuck Liga 1, fuck local guys. Now, let's focus on going to World Cup. That's how, you know, at the end of the day, I thought, like, me personally, what you would have done different. First, taking that job, when you take that job, you're supposed to have your team.
My crew around me,
Your team. And then whatever you want have to be the way you want. They have to give you the freedom to build the team you want, how you want it to be, not just restrict you. Oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. You know, you let that happen because you're already here for some time, and then you give them room to negotiate those things.
I wanted to work with people. I didn't think I had the experience level or the right to be demanding this, demanding that, demanding this, demanding that. Quite simply. I wanted to work with what I had at that moment. But, you know, I told you about the first day. The first day we got the players together. We arrive at the hotel in Bali, at the airport, because we're flying on to Australia.
Which took a whole day to get...
So all the players arrived.
Visa sorted.
Well, exactly what happened. All the players arrived in the hotel in Bali, and these are guys that are meeting me for the first time. This is the first time I'm in front of the players, and guys like yourself are turning up, and you know, guys we've been battling against with 𝒂𝒑, and now we're all on the same team. So there's that little kind of, you know, you're getting used to it and shaking hands and giving hugs and stuff. And I do my speech, and just before I go in to do the speech and meet the players for the first time, the team manager comes to me and says, "Coach, we've got a problem." I said, what's that? He said, "Well, we can't go to Australia." I said, "What do you mean? We're at the airport. What do you mean we can't go to Australia? Everyone's just flown in here to go straight to Australia. That's why we're here." Yeah, we can't go. Why? Because we've not got visas. I said, "What do you mean we've not got visas? The Indonesian national team have not got visas, yet we're at the airport." Then Tisha turns up, who was General Secretary, but pretty much ran the show because there was no president. And we're having this discussion as to why we haven't got visas. It turns out that the team manager at the time had only applied for the visas 2 days before we met.
Wow.
Because that's how it was always done. But at the time, there was a procedure player in jail in Australia, if you remember, who was being held.
I know.
So there was that situation going on, which meant that Australians weren't particularly cooperative with Indonesia and weren't giving us the visas they would normally give us. So we then had this situation that we then couldn't go to Australia. What do we do now? So the PSSI decided, okay, everyone back on a plane. We go back to Jakarta. We sit in the Sultan Hotel. We'll get some training.
So stressful. Oh my God!
It cost nearly $25,000. That mistake, and it cost us 3 extra days training camp.
So much drama, so much things.
Honestly,
we have to go through.
I could go on.
God. Yeah,
I could
keep
go
going.
I was
there. I was there. You know, but I'm happy you are here talking about these things, because, you know, some people who doesn't know what's going on inside, they don't know these things. They only want to see you win. They only want to come and see you win.
And I don't talk about it. I don't see the value in making I can talk about it now because it's history and the team are doing well. There's nothing to be gained or lost from discussing this now. And
it's not an excuse.
No, and the PSSI has now moved on.
Yes.
You know, but back in the day, the PSSI was a very different group of people. You had people in jobs that weren't...
Just define them. Horrible.
He's now been moved into that job. Well, that's not his job. He should be doing this job. True. And you've got people in the office moving jobs.
Yes.
With the greatest of respect, the team manager, we played Vanuatu. People are saying, why are we playing Vanuatu?
Yeah.
It's because we played Jordan and we had room for 2 games. And I'm saying we need to play 2 games during that FIFA window. I said, okay, we've got Jordan, great. Who else are we playing? I don't know, coach. This is the team manager of the national team. What do you mean you don't know? He says to me, do you know anyone?
Wow.
What do you mean, do I know anyone? I'm the team coach. Do you know anyone? In all seriousness, this is a discussion happening in the PSSI office ahead of a FIFA window. Do you know anyone? Who did I know? I knew Paul Munster, who was head coach of Vanuatu at the time. So I phoned Paul and I said, Paul, do you fancy a game? Like we're talking about two local charity teams going, do you fancy a game? Come on, we'll pay for it. That was the conversation I had with Paul. And then they ended up dropping what they were doing and coming across to Indonesia and playing us in a friendly because I knew Paul.
Wow.
Nothing to do with the PSSI.
Minum dulu.
Yeah, I know. It's quite...
It's embarrassing, to be honest. But you know, back then, I know one thing our federation was plan. 0.
Yeah.
But if you see now, everything is different.
Look at how it is now. I'm envious of how it is now.
It's
to work in that environment would be very difficult.
Look, Eric came in and then he put everybody on their foot. You know, okay, let's do this. No. He's a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
Not just talk. He make things happen.
Plus, Greg, he puts money in.
He puts money in.
He puts money in.
So it's
Simply
different.
that.
So what you're trying to say is different when you already have money and you put in your money, or when you are there trying to take?
All I'm saying is that you've got someone who knows how to spend money on the right things
Yes.
for the benefit of the team. Before that, I
And
had to
he's got
fight to try and get
he's
these
got
things.
a team.
Yeah.
He's got a team he trusts.
To be fair, it started with the president before him.
Yeah, Irwan.
He started to change some things round.
Yes,
He started
yes.
to move people out and get people in. He backed Shin Tae-yong.
Yes.
He started
100%.
bringing, and you started to see an improvement because
Yeah.
you had backing from the PSSI.
Yeah.
I was just on a pedestal on my own going, what's happening now, coach? What are you doing now? And I was fighting every day to get stuff done. Whereas now you have this plan in place, which
Helps.
whether you agree with it or not, that's
Yeah.
the way they want to take the PSSI, and it is coming back in results. They're,
Yeah.
hoping to qualify for World Cup, which is a great thing. But to compare the two is here and down here somewhere. It's not even close.
It's totally different.
It's totally different.
I mean, like, in that era, if everything is the same, it's as same as now, I think maybe it would have been different.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because even from the training camp, the facilities, everything was totally awkward. Now I remember I have to arrive Bali and then stay Bali one night, and then the next day I'm supposed to travel to Australia, and then I find myself back to Jakarta again.
Yeah, and we're in Jakarta for 3 or 4 days in the
Wow.
Sultan Hotel, training back at
I
Senayan.
already forget about that.
Yeah, man. But that was the first time I met the players. So the players are going, Christ, this is a circus. What's going on
we
here?
stayed at the airport for like 7 hours.
Yeah, we're in that hotel.
Waiting. No, we're waiting for the visa.
We're-
They said,
we're-
okay, the visa
It's
might
going to come, it's going to come. And then in the
Come.
end it didn't. We had to go back
And
to
then
Jakarta.
we have to divide the players into two.
Different planes back to
Different
Jakarta, arriving back at the Sultanate. I mean,
Wow.
it got worse when we went to Dubai. You didn't come to Dubai because you were at home.
Yeah.
So when we arrived in Dubai, we had 2 friendly games planned. And then on the morning of the first friendly game,
Yeah.
we got news from the Federation of UAE that any team that played us in a friendly would be kicked out of their respective league.
Why?
They didn't want us to play any friendlies. We got there 10 days early to play some friendlies to acclimatise.
Wow. Yeah.
Then when we got there, they cancelled all the friendlies. So I'm sitting discussing with the team manager at breakfast, right, what are we going to do? Okay, look, we've got a big enough squad. Let's make 2 teams. We'll play an internal friendly. We'll try and make it a bit competitive, and at least we'll get a run out, because no team will play us. No matter what level in UAE, no one would play us.
Yes.
He said, okay, fine. How long is it going to take to get to the stadium? You booked the stadium. Yeah, stadium's booked, no problem. Got it all ready. It's going to take about 45 minutes. Okay, so we'll leave at this time. Got it out to the players. Later on that afternoon, we get to the bus, ready to go. It takes 2.5 hours to get to the stadium.
Wow.
When we got there, there's the stadium that's all lit up, and we thought, this looks all right. And then there's a training pitch with 2 floodlights,
Yeah.
and he's booked the training pitch. So if we'd have played against a UAE League One team,
Yeah.
we'd have played on that training pitch, which is only half lit and is actually quite dangerous.
Wow.
And we were 2.5 hours late. We were an hour and a half late for kickoff, which would have, so if the team had played us, it would have just been incredibly embarrassing.
Horrible.
And on the way there, we showed up to the bus driver's taking us and the team manager's directing him. We showed up at a futsal pitch. And he goes, right, we're here, opens the doors. And all the boys in the back are going, "Ray, we're playing futsal." We're on the way to, this is training to play the UAE in the World Cup. This is the situation. I'm sitting there just going, what?
Oh my
God. I can't do everything.
And you cannot, there's nothing you can do.
I can't do everything.
Yeah,
There's got to be certain things that you take responsibility for. And we're showing up to a futsal game 2.5 hours late with no opposition. It's just...
So embarrassing. If we talk about this national team, I think we're gonna...
I know, yeah. I won't sleep tonight because I'll start shaking
You
again. No, not again, not again.
Hey, so
Yeah.
suddenly you became a Philippine national team coach
Yeah.
at the age of 33.
32.
32?
32. Yeah, it was just before my birthday.
The youngest coach.
I was the youngest national team head coach in the world at that point.
Wow.
And do you know what? If I heard of someone getting a national team job the way I got a job now with my experience and looking at it, I'd be so angry. But how the hell has this guy got a job when my CV's here?
Yeah.
What?
True.
How the hell has this guy got a
Yes,
job?
100%.
There is no way I should have got that job.
Yeah.
Cards on table, no way I should have got that job. But
That was God's plan.
it was God's plan, and I walked into a situation which needed someone who could congregate a team and drive them forward. Not necessarily some tactical masterclass, just someone who could create relationships and get guys. If you remember the Philippines team, we didn't play great football, but we were tough,
very
we were
organised.
strong, very organised.
Yeah.
And that's all we did, because that's really all we could do, given the limitations of the team. And it took us all the way. I mean, we beat Vietnam 2-0 in Hanoi in front of 40,000. Shut them up. And then,
awesome.
you know, drew against Myanmar, drew with Singapore, and then 1-0 to Indonesia in the Bunkano. And even that.
1-0. That game was a close game.
It was really close.
Was it
It was very close. There wasn't many good chances for either team. Fortunately, you had a guy like Gonzalez who could take a chance when one come up.
Yeah.
One chance, one goal. So, you know, I bumped into him many times since and put him in a headlock and gosh, and he jumps on me and I jump.
Yeah.
This is what I mean about always having good relationships. That's important to me.
About relationship, I think there's never been a problem about the internal for the coach relationship between the coach and the players. I think everything has been awesome. Working with you also was a great experience for me and other guys. We communicate well, you know, because you give everybody a chance to communicate, you know, and then you know how they feel, what they really want, how they will help the team, you know. You are very open about that. And I remember our first meeting when you told me, okay, don't come to national team with your Rolex.
I remember telling you that.
Did that.
With your character, from the outside, people looking in think it's all just this, it's cars, it's watches. I need to see what's behind that.
Yes.
And you showed me, which was why when it came to my first squad in Myanmar, you started. It doesn't get any better
I
than
know
that.
I wasn't the first choice.
Do you know what?
I wasn't. Hey.
One thing.
No. This I stop you. I know. I wasn't the first choice. Spasso was supposed to start. I remember one training, he was pushing so hard to convince you that he deserved to start. I said to him, bro, relax. You are pushing too much. You know. I mean, we have deep squad, but even me and him, I know that okay, he gonna start or I'm gonna start, but we have good relationship, you know. And then finally, when he knew that he's not gonna start, you told me. I think last training you said, I think you're gonna start, based on tactical. And then Spasso came to me and said, bro, you gotta start today. Not me. He said, okay, I support you. I fully support you. You are top player. This that. We talk about it. I say, bro, come on. Anybody who start here, we just want to win the game. You know.
And who scored?
We both scored. Yeah, and then first half I scored, and then second half he came in, he scored. So that camp was really, really one of the best camp I ever been in.
It had a really good feeling. It had a really good feeling.
Good vibes. Everybody
it was good fun.
Yeah, it was good, and it was fun. And then you can see from how we play.
Yeah.
It was easy game. We would have won like 6-7-0.
Fano still. Yeah, where did I see him? I bumped into him in Bali Airport about a week ago, and I still said to him, "Do you remember that game where you missed about 10 chances, and then I took him off at half time and he wasn't happy, and I put Spasso on and Spasso scored."
Scored, yeah.
This is how things happen. But the one thing I remember about yourself in Australia, and it's just a little thing, but it's the sort of thing that a coach would remember, is that of all the discussions we'd had about watches and then this sort of stuff, and you working hard, that was great, but we were sat in the cafe. And obviously we share the hotel with other people, and there was a family here with kids, and you were telling a joke or something to Spasso, and you went, "Hey, fucking this," and I'm, "Greg, there's a kid, what's your language, pal?" And you got up, and immediately you got up and you went over and apologised to the table. So I'm really sorry if you heard that. I really apologise. That said everything I needed to know about you. Just that little bit, nothing on the pitch, nothing about watches, just the fact that I said, "Greg, what's your language?" And straight away you thought about what that portrays of you, the team, me, and straight away I'm really sorry about that, I apologise. That said more to me than pretty much most things on a football pitch, that you are a guy that I can put trust in to respect what we're trying to do here. Yeah. These are little things I think that coaches pick up on, they notice who sits with who involves who. You know, when things go bad, who's the one stepping up and going, "Right, give me the ball, I'll do it. Give it to me."
100%.
Who are the guys that do that? Who are the guys that go, "Oh, UAE away. I don't know about that. Oh, I've got an injury. I'll go, "No, I can't, I've got an injury." It's like Sarui away, it's the same thing.
Yeah, but you know, it was a fun time. But everything in life happened for a reason.
Yeah.
And then next, I want to ask,
Yeah.
what's the biggest difference between Europe and Asia, especially Southeast Asia?
I think the level of understanding within football with everybody is higher. Bosses know what they're talking about. They know tactics. They know.
understand.
I think everyone in the club has a higher level of football. I think people love football here,
Yes.
without doubt. They're passionate about it. I mean, and some people would give their lives for it. I understand that in this part of the world. But the knowledge about really, truly understanding the game
Zero.
isn't here.
Yes. 100%.
And I think that's a big difference. When you're talking to people in Europe, board members in a group will be able to talk with you knowledgeably about football because a lot of them have played football their whole lives. They understand it. They've seen tactics. They've seen managers come in. They get it at a much deeper level.
Yeah.
So that conversation and you being good, you really have to be good every day. You have to know what you're talking about every single day. And I
Yes.
think in Southeast Asia, it's not quite the same. People get involved with football at boardroom level for different reasons, not necessarily just football.
I just say it, political sometimes.
It's your show, so you can say that.
Yes, I'm saying it.
Yeah,
So,
it's true. It's true.
Some people are just there to be seen. They want to be seen.
Or to
And
be
then-
liked, or to gain power, or
and they
whatever
don't
that is.
understand nothing about football.
I've always said about Indonesia, there's not enough football people making football decisions.
Yeah, true. And this is the aspect I think we need to improve in Indonesia. Me, personally. You need to let football people run football. Not
Yeah.
people who doesn't understand football, you know?
No, I
Yeah.
agree with that
Yeah.
100%. And to be honest, that was why I go back to my first day. That's why I was quite disappointed that someone I considered to be a good football person. I don't know his politics or what he did
Yeah.
off the. I've got no idea, and it's none of
Yeah.
my business.
Mhm.
But in terms of him being a football person,
Mhm.
I believed what he was telling me. I liked the guy on a football level, talking football with him. I really liked the guy, and I was quite keen to work for someone like that.
Yeah.
Not a businessman who's done well, who has now bought a football club.
Yes.
That's a
Agree.
very different
Concept.
concept. It's different
Yeah.
communication. You're coaching players, but then you're coaching bosses. It's
Yeah.
a very different
True.
situation, and that happens a lot in Southeast Asia. You've got to be able to coach bosses because they don't have the knowledge that a boss in Europe would.
They don't. The question is that they even want to learn. They don't want to learn. That's the problem.
Just want to win.
They just want to see result. They just want to, just win, and then even without knowledge, they will still try to teach you how to be a coach.
Yeah, it's
This is the
again
biggest
that's a
problem.
real test. That's
The
a real
biggest
test for a
problem.
coach.
Zero knowledge about football, no football background, nothing about football, never played football in his life. He owned a club, and then he signed you as a coach, and he want to teach you how to be a coach.
I think there's a level of culture involved there as well, Indonesian culture,
Yeah.
in that if you are the owner of a business,
Mm.
you're not used to someone saying no or
So you-
someone not agreeing with your
Yes.
opinion.
Yes.
So when you're in a room and you put an opinion, if someone goes, well, actually, whoa, you don't say that to the boss. You can't say that. You know, he's not used to having that. So
Yeah.
how you manage that as a coach to an owner, that comes down to your management skills. Can you get the owner of the club in a room and explain to you, listen, you have to understand you've brought me because of my opinion on football.
Yeah.
Now it's not going to be the same as yours.
True.
And I will always try and explain it respectfully, but you have to
Yes.
give me the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
And to be fair to Boss 𝑵𝒂𝒉 at Bayangkara, that's what he was always able to do.
Yeah.
You know, he would give you just enough rope to hang yourself if you got it wrong. Because he was always behind you going, get it right.
Yeah.
But if you get it right, he respected you and allowed you that
to go
that
Yeah.
level of it's your show.
Okay.
But if you get it wrong,
Kill. Yeah.
and there was always that because he's police, he's brutal. But yeah, and he would make that. I've seen him make that sign a couple of times. The year we won the league, we're 1-1 with 𝒕𝒉𝒊𝒏𝒈 away, and I know if we don't win that game, as a coach, you know when that pressure's getting to a point
Yeah.
because everyone just takes a step away from you,
Yes.
and you're very much on your own.
Yes.
That game in 𝒕𝒉𝒊𝒏𝒈, we hadn't done well. I changed the shape to a 4-4-2 diamond, and players were moaning a little bit. I don't know this. I don't know it. And we're 1-1. Beto scores for 𝒕𝒉𝒊𝒏𝒈. And they were a good team at the time, but that was Paulo Sergio's very first game for us. And he was like a rabbit in headlights. He's like, what is going on here? But second half, he just kicked into gear and we won 2-1.
Yeah.
And after that, we just went.
Yeah.
But before that, that was a game I know if we'd have lost that, Boss Marchie would been
Cut you.
for sure.
You think so?
Yeah, 100%. We've talked about it and laughed about it, and he agrees. I would have sacked you.
After being a national team coach for Philippines, and then you took a job in 𝑻𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒈.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, between that moment and now, what do you think about Indonesian League? How has it improved?
It's difficult to say from a coaching perspective, you know.
Yeah.
I had that team at 𝑵𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒈, I had some very, very good players. I had 𝒂𝒐𝒉, I had 𝑻𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒈, I had Marcus Bent, I had 𝑗𝑗 Mulyana up top, who was scoring goals for fun.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
𝑻𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒈 at the back.
Smashing you at home.
You would remember that, wouldn't you?
I remember.
Yeah, you would remember
I
that.
scored fantastic goal. I smashed you so good. 2-14. That was good. But you had fantastic team.
We did have a good team.
Yeah.
And I left the team, when I got sacked, we were in 3rd place.
𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒈 was there too?
𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒈 was captain, yeah.
Captain.
Yeah.
How is it working with him?
There are certain players in Indonesia
Mm.
you understand have power.
Mm.
And much like speaking to a boss,
Mm.
you have to understand how to talk to a player like that. You know he has influence.
Mhm.
You know that players listen to him. You know that bosses listen to him.
Yeah.
So that has to be handled.
Yeah.
And I afforded 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒈 the luxury of being the captain, but also I would ask his opinion on a lot of things.
Yeah.
So we would meet in Kunigin,
Mhm.
we would have a coffee, and I'd be saying, what do you think about the team? Much like I did with national
Yeah.
team when we were
Yeah.
there. I would
Yeah.
always ask,
Mhm.
what do you think?
Yeah.
You know, I need to know. And I would give him his opinion, and I wouldn't necessarily always act on it,
Yeah.
but I would give him the opportunity to be able to give me information, you know, and things that he saw.
Yeah.
Because, again, I don't believe I'm the best coach in the world.
Yeah.
And if I've got people like yourself and Irfan and guys like 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒈 in the room,
Mhm.
there's a lot of knowledge and experience in the players, let alone just me. So why
Mhm.
would I not try and utilize some of that knowledge?
Yeah. I agree.
But how you do it, I think that's the skill of the job. How
Yeah.
you get that information out of people.
Mhm.
It's not just about football, you know. It's how you deal with people. It's how you
Yeah.
handle people. And like we said at the beginning,
Mhm.
I've never had an issue with that. I've never had a
That's good.
problem.
That's good.
So that's a big thing for me is communication. And with 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒈, you knew that the players looked up to him, respected him, but also what was a little bit concerning was the boss listened to him a lot.
Yes.
And that causes a problem.
Yeah. Sometimes. And coach, finally, I
Yeah.
want to ask you, what's next for you? You don't miss coaching or coming back into football coaching?
The longer you're in the job, the harder it is to know that, firstly, people don't watch you work.
Yeah.
Any other job, office job, sales job, selling cars,
Mhm.
people watch you work and they judge you on what you do.
Yeah.
When you're a coach, nobody watches you work.
True.
They judge how good a coach you are on whether you score 2 goals.
Yeah.
Or whether the team performs.
Mhm.
Which, when it comes to the whistle, it's nothing to do with me. I'm not kicking a ball.
True.
But the longer you're in the job and you're judged on those results, it's
Yeah.
harder then to base a
Yes.
family's happiness, a family's security, a family's finances
Mhm.
off the back of what 11 guys are doing.
Mhm.
And don't forget, like we talked about,
Yeah. True.
I can't control that. Yet that
This to this.
that bit here
Mhm.
can affect whether
A lot.
my son has friends, whether he's at the right school, whether we have enough money going forward,
True.
job security.
Yeah.
The longer you're in the job, the harder that is to balance in your head. And there's a big wide world out there, and I love the job. And I love just being able to do the job.
But you miss coaching, especially
Yeah,
in
of course.
Indonesian football,
Of course, anyone who has experienced what it's like to stand in the Bunkano with 75, 80,000 fans screaming the national anthem behind you. I still get choked up when the national anthem comes on. And I'm
Yeah.
not Indonesian.
Yeah, I know.
But
Tell
when
me
that
about
comes
it.
on, it takes me back to standing on the sideline in a suit and hearing that wall of noise, that whole country screaming behind you, and I get emotional over it. It gets me every single time. That will never change. But yeah, I miss coaching, but I'm not jumping in at the first opportunity now. I'm not just going to
Yeah.
take a job.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you for having you here, Coach.
You're welcome, pal.
Looking forward to see you and what's next for you, okay? Oke, terima kasih sudah nonton. Dukung sepak bola Indonesia dengan kasih komen yang positif. Talk nothing but the truth. Only on Greg on the Talk. Thank you guys. See you next.